It was just another stormy night for Ethan, a broke mechanic with grease on his hands and nothing but silence waiting at home, until a barefoot woman stumbled into his garage, soaked and shaking. He gave her shelter, asked no questions. 3 days later, she returned in a Rolls-Royce, looked him in the eyes, and said 5 words that would flip his entire world upside down. "Let's begin." The storm didn't ask questions. It just crashed down. Thunder cracked like a whip as Ethan Cole locked up the front of Cole's auto, the same rusty garage he'd inherited when his father passed, and the same one barely clinging to life. He pulled the metal shutter halfway when a flash of silver tore through the rain, tires screeching as a car slid to a stop across the street. Then nothing. No movement. No lights. Just the idling engine drowning beneath the rain's roar. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He sprinted without a second thought. The driver's door was slightly ajar, and through the pouring water, he saw her, a woman slumped over the wheel, soaked, shaking, her knuckles white from gripping the steering. "Ma'am." He knocked on the window, but she didn't react. He yanked the door open. She didn't look up. Her lips were blue, her blouse clung to her like second skin, and she was barefoot. Her heel sat on the passenger seat, snapped in half. Her mascara ran in black rivers down her pale cheeks, and her breaths came in short, clipped gasps. "Hey, you're not okay," Ethan said, pulling off his flannel jacket and wrapping it over her shoulders. "You need to get warm. Come on. My garage is right there." "I shouldn't be here," she whispered, eyes wide with fear. "I made a mistake. You didn't crash. That's a win tonight. Come on." She didn't argue. She couldn't. She was trembling too hard. Ethan guided her across the road, water pooling in her footsteps. He opened the garage door with one hand and led her inside, gently seating her on the worn-out leather couch beside the ancient coffee machine. He handed her a towel. "Name's Ethan. You." A pause. Her voice cracked like old glass. "Madeline." She looked like someone who didn't belong anywhere near this side of town. Her watch alone was worth more than the whole garage. But she didn't act like it. No arrogance. No demands. "Do you need me to call someone? Police? A friend?" Madeline looked away. "There's no one." Ethan didn't press. He just brewed the worst cup of coffee known to man and handed it over anyway. She took it with both hands like it was gold. He crouched down across from her. "So, you running from something?" Silence. Then, in a low, broken voice, she said, "Someone." Lightning lit the room for half a second, long enough for Ethan to see the bruise blooming under her jaw. His heart clenched. He didn't ask any more questions. He just nodded, stood up, and said, "You can stay here tonight. Lock the door behind me if you want. I sleep upstairs. No one's going to bother you here." Madeline blinked at him like no one had ever said that before, and, as he started toward the stairs, she called out behind him, "Why are you helping me?" Ethan paused. Then, without turning, he replied quietly, "Because someone once helped my mom when no one else did." He didn't hear her whisper back, but if he had, he'd have heard the words, "Then maybe you're the reason I'll survive this." Ethan didn't sleep that night. Not fully. He kept an ear open, listening for footsteps, a door creaking open, anything. But all he heard was the storm calming to a drizzle and the occasional hum of traffic that never quite stopped on the edge of town. Downstairs, he knew she was still on that couch. And somehow, despite the 100 questions that burned in his mind, who was she? What was she running from? Why did someone hurt her? He didn't ask. He just waited. By morning, the garage smelled like burnt coffee and wet concrete. The air was thick with motor oil and quiet tension. Ethan rubbed his eyes and made his way down, slow and careful. She was sitting up, still wrapped in his flannel, staring out the window at the soaked pavement. Her eyes were clearer now, though rimmed with exhaustion. "I didn't run last night," Madeline said without looking at him. "I wanted to. I almost did." Ethan leaned on the counter and nodded. "But you didn't." She exhaled a sharp breath and finally turned to face him. "I've never stayed anywhere like this. She paused, searching for a word. "Safe." He gave her a small smile. "It's ugly, too. Don't hold back." She laughed. "Barely. But it was real. I should go," she said suddenly, straightening up, brushing the damp from her skirt. "Thank you for whatever that was." Ethan folded his arms. "You don't have to rush out. Whoever's got you scared, he's still out there." Her expression hardened in an instant. "It's complicated. You've got a car with blown tires, a busted heel, no coat, and a bruise on your jaw. Ethan replied softly. I don't need the full story, but I know fear when I see it. And yours isn't over. Madeline's eyes welled up, but she forced them dry. I can't get you involved. You already did, Ethan said simply. She looked at him like he was insane. Why are you still being nice to me? He shrugged. Because being cruel's already crowded. She didn't answer that. Instead, she pulled a gold-plated business card from her purse and held it out. He didn't take it. Not yet. She stared him in the eye. If I call this number, if he answers, don't believe a word he says. Who is he? My husband. Ethan finally accepted the card, but flipped it over instead of reading the front. You're married? Was. Almost. Until last night. She rubbed the bruise gently. I left everything behind. No money. No friends. No legal help. Just a silver car and enough gas to make it here. Ethan stared at the card. It had the name James Radcliffe III etched into it. The font was elegant. Cold. Clean. That's the Radcliffe Foundation, he said slowly. They do real estate and investment and own like half the city. Yeah, Madeline said with a grim nod. And one of them owns me. Her voice didn't shake this time. It was solid. Resigned. The way people sound when they've stopped hoping. Ethan pocketed the card without asking. You've got nothing left, huh? She smiled bitterly. Just my name. And I might have to change that, too. He pulled a wrench from the toolboard and motioned to the car outside. Then let me fix your ride. On the house. You already gave me a couch, a coat, and your trust, Madeline said. You sure you want to keep going? Ethan smirked. Oh, my dad taught me to fix what's broken. Not just engines. They didn't speak again for the next hour. She watched quietly as he replaced the tire and checked the undercarriage. Her hand stayed wrapped around a coffee cup he'd given her that morning, and her gaze never left him. Not once. By the time he wiped the grease from his hands and closed the hood, the sky had cleared. So, what's the plan? He asked her as she stood beside the car. Madeline stepped forward. I'm going to disappear. At least for a while. But I'll remember what you did. All of it. Ethan nodded slowly. If you ever need a place again. She smiled. I know where to find it. She paused just as she was about to get into the car. Then she turned around and said 5 soft, careful words. You just saved my life. And then she was gone. The silver car disappeared down the street like it had never been there. Ethan stood alone in the morning sun, hands still gripping the card in his pocket, not knowing that this wasn't the end of the story at all. It was just the silence before the quake. 3 days passed. No calls. No messages. No silver car pulling up on a gray skies. Ethan tried to shake her from his mind, but she haunted the garage like a phantom. Her coat still hung on the hook by the door. Her half-empty coffee cup sat on the counter, untouched. And that card, James Radcliffe III, the name burned like acid in his pocket. He should have thrown it out. Instead, he Googled it. The results were endless. Forbes profiles, foundation articles, news features, photos of James shaking hands with governors and CEOs and foreign dignitaries. A man whose jawline looked sculpted and whose smile never touched his eyes. Then Ethan saw her, Madeline, standing beside James at some gala weeks ago. She wore a black dress and a perfect smile, but he recognized that flicker of tension in her eyes. The kind that doesn't photograph well. The kind that hides behind makeup and posture. Then the article headline hit him in the gut. Radcliffe wedding canceled. Billionaire heiress vanishes days before ceremony. Beneath it, a quote from James. Madeline has always struggled with emotional instability. This disappearance is concerning, but not unexpected. We're praying for her safe return. Ethan swore under his breath. So that's the game. Public gaslighting in a tuxedo. That night, he took the bus to the only place he knew might give him answers. The Radcliffe Foundation headquarters. Not to confront anyone. Not yet. Just to see. The lobby alone was enough to make him feel small. Marble floors. Gold rails. Security men with earpieces and judging eyes. He didn't go in. He just watched. Waited. Until the lights inside flickered off and only shadows remained. And still no sign of her. The next morning, Ethan opened the garage to find a car already parked out front. But it wasn't silver. It was midnight black. Long low. Expensive. He knew the brand. Rolls-Royce Ghost. Ethan froze. The driver's side window rolled down with a soft mechanical whisper. And there she was. Madeline. But everything about her had changed. Her hair was pulled into a smooth, expensive bun. Her face calm, powdered, emotionless. She wore a soft gray trench coat, tailored to her body, and her diamond earrings sparkled under the rising sun. And when she stepped out, she wasn't trembling anymore. She walked like someone who'd made a decision the world wasn't ready for. "Morning," Ethan said quietly, trying to keep up with what he was seeing. She looked at him for a long second. "I owe you an explanation." He tilted his head. "You don't owe me anything." "I do," she said, stepping closer. "Because what I'm about to do, I couldn't have done without you." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" Madeline reached into the car and pulled out a thick leather folder. She handed it to him. He opened it. Inside, photos, documents, legal filings. A handwritten statement from her. And on the front page, her name listed as co-owner of Radcliffe Holdings, something Ethan didn't even know was possible. "I was never just some fiancé," she said. "I was a silent partner, one my father set up before he died. James never knew, but now he will." Ethan stared at the papers. "Wait, you're saying?" She smiled, the kind of smile that carried years of restraint finally breaking. "I'm taking everything back. But why are you here?" Ethan asked, stunned, and then she leaned in just a little. Her eyes softened. "To thank you," she said, "and to ask for one more thing. Anything. I need help rebuilding something I believe in. Something good. Something honest. I'm going to fix the lives James destroyed. I need someone I trust. Someone like you." Ethan blinked. "You're serious? Do I look like I came here to play?" And then she smiled again. Smaller this time. Quieter. "And for the record, I wasn't lying that night when I said you saved my life." She paused, then added with purpose. "Now I want to save yours." Ethan didn't answer right away. How could he? He stood there, oil-stained shirt sticking to his back, staring at a woman who had walked out of his garage soaked and silent, and returned in a Rolls-Royce with fire in her eyes. He looked down at the folder again. Her name was stamped across a dozen high-level documents. Madeline Greer, equal shareholder, board rights, voting control. And at the bottom of the page, a motion to freeze James Radcliffe's personal assets. "I don't even know how to be part of something like this," Ethan finally said, voice low. "I fix engines. I don't take down billionaires." "You fix what's broken," she replied, meeting his eyes. "I need that." He opened his mouth to protest, but she wasn't done. "My plan's not about revenge, Ethan. It's about exposure. Truth. Accountability. If I go public alone, they'll say I'm emotional, unstable, unfit. But if I show up with someone who saw the truth, someone who helped me when I had nothing, they'll have to listen." Ethan exhaled. "You want to use me as a witness? I want you by my side when we flip their polished world upside down," she said. His heart pounded, not with fear but something else, something that had been dormant for years. "Purpose. I'm in," he said quietly. "Whatever you need. I'm in." Her expression softened. "Thank you." Then she handed him a small envelope. "What's this?" "Your first paycheck," she said simply. "You're my partner now." He opened it and nearly dropped it. $10,000. Cash. "Madeline, I can't take this." "You will," she said firmly. "Because you've earned it. And because you're going to need it. Things are about to move fast." She was right. By noon that day, Madeline had arranged a private press meeting through a lawyer she trusted. Ethan found himself seated in a downtown conference room, surrounded by polished glass walls and journalists murmuring with suspicion. Madeline stood before them, calm and cold. She laid out the truth like a surgeon. The engagement, the abuse, the manipulation, and then the hidden ownership documents, the photos of bruises, the text messages she'd saved for months, and finally, the financial trail showing how James Radcliffe had tried to siphon her portion of the company into a fake shell firm the day after she disappeared. The room went silent, and then the questions came like bullets. Madeline didn't flinch. When someone asked, "And who is this man with you?" she turned to Ethan, placed a hand gently on his shoulder, and said, "The only person who helped me without expecting a thing." The articles hit within hours. Radcliffe empire rocked by internal power shift. Era speaks out. He called me broken. Now I own half. Mystery mechanic at center of billionaire scandal. By nightfall, Ethan's garage had 20 reporters camped outside. And that's when the retaliation began. His landlord received a sudden buyout offer, triple the market rate. if he evicted Ethan immediately. Local suppliers stopped sending him parts. Phones rang off the hook, but no one spoke when he answered. James is behind this, Ethan muttered, clutching a letter demanding he vacate the premises within 5 days. Madeline didn't even blink. We'll buy it, she said. What? The building. The land. The entire block if we have to. I told you, Ethan. You saved my life. Now I'm saving yours. He looked at her, unsure if it was real. You don't have to. Yes, I do, she interrupted. And then, softer, you're the only real thing I've had in years. Ethan's voice nearly caught. You keep saying I saved you. But you saved me too, Maddie. He didn't expect her to react to the nickname, but she smiled. That night, the two of them sat in the garage, under the buzzing light of an old bulb, eating pizza from a paper box while security guards waited outside. Neither of them said it aloud, but both knew. This wasn't about business anymore. This was about redemption, about rebuilding something that couldn't be bought or broken. And though the worst was still coming, they were ready to face it together. The storm they feared finally hit. Not a real one. Worse. James Radcliffe went silent for 48 hours after the press conference. No public response. No statements. Just pure, calculated silence. Then the counterstrike. A video was leaked, one from over a year ago, of Madeline shouting during a boardroom meeting. Her voice raised, her face red, her tone unfiltered. The media twisted it. Unstable heiress has public meltdown. Radcliffe's ex-fiancée loses control behind closed doors. They brought in body language experts. Anchors whispered about mental health. And worst of all, they replayed James's words over and over again. She's emotionally fragile. I've always worried for her. Madeline didn't cry this time. She watched the clip on Ethan's cracked laptop and sat still for a long while. Then, finally she asked, "Do I look broken?" Ethan didn't blink. "You look like someone who finally stopped pretending." She nodded. "Then let's finish this." That night, they went to war, the legal kind. Madeline and Ethan filed a motion in federal court. Full asset audit and shareholder hearing. Every dirty transaction, every falsified document James had ever buried, now being pulled into the light. The hearing was set for 10 days later. In those 10 days, they worked nonstop. They slept on the garage couch, built a case with Madeline's new legal team, and poured through hundreds of pages of financial records and board notes. And the whole time, something shifted between them. Not romance, not yet, something deeper. Trust, respect, gravity. Then came the courtroom. The judge presided from his high bench as James Radcliffe entered in a three-piece suit, flanked by 5 attorneys and a crooked smile. He looked at Madeline like she was still a fragile porcelain doll he could crack with a whisper, until he saw Ethan. The room went cold. "Who's this?" James muttered to his lawyer. Madeline answered for him. "The man who gave me more loyalty in one night than you gave me in 5 years." James scoffed. "So now you're dragging in your charity cases to make a point?" Ethan didn't flinch. "No, I'm standing beside a woman who survived you." The judge banged his gavel. "Order." The hearing began. Madeline testified first. She spoke clearly, slowly, with evidence in hand. She laid out the emotional abuse, the coercion, the shell companies, the attempts to discredit her. And Ethan testified too, about the night she arrived at his garage in the rain, barefoot and bruised, desperate and silent. James's attorneys tried to discredit both of them. They failed. 2 hours in, James lost control. He stood up and shouted across the courtroom, "You were nothing before me." And Madeline calmly replied, "Then explain why I still own half your empire." Silence. The judge ruled in her favor. James's accounts were frozen. He was ordered to step down from the board temporarily, pending full audit review. And Madeline? She walked out the front doors of the courthouse to a sea of cameras, not as a victim, but as a storm in heels. Reporters flooded her. "Miss Greer, what's next for you?" She turned, smiled softly, and said, "I'm building something new, something honest, with someone who never saw me as weak." She didn't say Ethan's name. She didn't have to. That night, back at the garage, now theirs, they shared dinner in silence, letting it all sink in. The lawsuits weren't over. The media chaos would keep coming. But the war was won. As the sun began to set over the parking lot, Ethan walked Madeline out to the front steps. "You really going to start this company?" he asked. She nodded. And I want you to run the operations with me. He blinked. You trust me that much? She looked at him carefully. You're the only person I've ever trusted that much. Then she stepped closer. Also, you make terrible coffee. And I need someone around to remind me I'm not invincible. He smiled. Yeah, well, you're close. And then she leaned in, just enough to whisper. I told you. You saved my life. He looked into her eyes, steady and unafraid, and replied. And you gave mine a reason again. Together, under the soft glow of the flickering garage light, they stood as two people who had nothing to gain from each other, but everything to rebuild. Not from wealth, not from power, but from the kind of loyalty you only find in the middle of a storm.